Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
This is exactly what Toronto Blue Jays fans have been anticipating as we have a substantial free agency update to break down regarding the position that's generated the most discussion surrounding the Blue Jays and their front office's plans moving forward. The organization's strategic approach has been revealed in significant ways, and we now have much clearer understanding about what their next moves are likely to be. We're going to dive into all of that because there's considerable information to analyze right now. As we're aware, the Blue Jays pitching depth has some questions at the moment, and the organization ultimately needs to find effective ways to address those concerns and acquire more quality arms for this roster. They're somewhat thin on reliable depth right now, and as mentioned previously, several of their pitching projections involve what-if scenarios. If certain pitchers can stay healthy for full seasons, if some arms can deliver bounce-back performances, if young pitchers can take developmental steps forward. There's substantial uncertainty to consider currently. Before we dive deeper into all the developments, let me acknowledge our content sponsor who makes these daily updates possible. Now let's jump directly into the analysis. The Toronto Blue Jays desperately need to add more pitching to this roster right now so they have significantly more talent and depth in the rotation, because currently where things stand, outcomes can trend positive, but they also carry considerable downside risk. There are quality free agent pitchers available on the market, along with some intriguing trade options, but many Blue Jays fans are reaching consensus that free agency represents the preferred acquisition pathway. There will be exceptional pitchers available in free agency next year, including some prominent arms currently generating trade speculation. Those players represent two significant names in the trade market currently, but ultimately it's challenging to justify trading for them because at the end of the day, what we potentially see is the possibility of them departing in free agency a year later. With Toronto having surrendered valuable prospects, they wouldn't have needed to sacrifice if they were simply willing to sign those players directly in free agency. So right now, when examining free agency options, understanding that ownership has demonstrated willingness to invest financially, the organization obviously can make aggressive moves when they identify the right targets. New reporting has emerged regarding their pitching plans, with credible insiders suggesting that given Toronto still needing rotation help, it seems inevitable they'll acquire one of the premium starters available. Certain pitchers make considerable sense given their proven track record pitching effectively in competitive environments and handling the pressure that comes with meaningful games. When evaluating the market dynamics, every offseason develops differently. There's no better illustration of that than how this year's pitching market has unfolded. Relievers came off the board early, while starters are still evaluating their options. That dynamic should finally shift this month as various names are starting to generate increased attention. Multiple organizations, including several contending teams, are viewed as needing additional starting pitching. But the premium arms should sign first before the secondary market develops. Generally, it's been a gradually developing market, and these situations exemplify that pattern. What we're seeing here indicates that Toronto will ultimately be making a move soon, whether for specific targeted arms or alternative options. They will be actively pursuing solutions. Now, certain pitchers have been connected to Toronto somewhat more recently by credible reporting sources, and I know Blue Jays fans hold varying perspectives. However, I believe certain players represent the optimal targets the organization should pursue aggressively. I know there are some concerns regarding durability and health track records, but when evaluating objectively, certain pitchers are simply better options based on recent performance. One particular arm had exceptional production this past season with strong performance metrics across significant innings. He was excellent in meaningful starts. He won't generate enormous strikeout totals as he's more of a contact management pitcher, but ultimately he has quality secondary offerings that keep hitters off balance, and Toronto needs that pitching profile. Some pitchers are slightly younger with more remaining team control, and I think they represent superior values in the current market. When examining advanced metrics and underlying performance indicators, certain pitchers receive extremely favorable evaluations. The run prevention metrics look excellent, the breaking ball effectiveness is strong, the off-speed pitch development is impressive, the primary fastball might not grade as elite, but still performs above league average. Some pitchers don't feature premium velocity and won't generate elite whiff rates, but they maintain average strikeout capabilities. They can miss bats when needed, even if that's not their primary approach. Extension measurements might not be ideal, but that doesn't particularly concern me given other strengths. High ground ball percentages are valuable assets, and limiting hard contact represents a crucial skill. Making opponents pop up and fly out consistently creates value. Limiting exit velocity and preventing barrels leads to run prevention. Pitchers who suppress home runs provide specific value for teams, emphasizing defensive run prevention and building around strong position player defense. With all that context, certain pitchers represent the answer to Toronto's rotation needs. I don't believe there should be extensive debate. Now, reporting has indicated that other organizations are strongly pursuing these same arms, suggesting they haven't closed deals yet but feel competitive in those negotiations. Toronto should be positioned to outbid competitors. Some organizations have already committed substantial payroll, so the Blue Jays should have financial flexibility to exceed competing offers and secure their preferred targets while simultaneously weakening division rivals. From what I've observed, many Blue Jays fans would prefer alternative options as the pitcher management ultimately signs. Certain arms coming off solid careers with established organizations have been reliable contributors, but their postseason track records show some inconsistency. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about some alternatives despite recognizing their quality. We do have reporting on specific pitchers indicating that multiple clubs have been frequently connected to certain arms, which makes logical sense given that top baseball operations executives have organizational history with these pitchers. Various front office leaders were in scouting or management roles when certain pitchers were originally signed or developed, creating familiarity and established relationships. I'm not suggesting certain pitchers aren't quality arms. Of course, they're good pitchers, but they might not represent the ace-level talent some fans envision. Teams don't necessarily require true ace-level arms as long as other rotation pieces perform to expectations. But simultaneously, I'm not overwhelmingly enthusiastic about certain alternatives despite them having some favorable attributes. Some pitchers are genuine workhorses, capable of absorbing significant innings and eating up substantial workload in ways other options cannot. That represents meaningful value, especially for teams with bullpen depth questions. Certain arms aren't elite strikeout pitchers, but post respectable strikeout totals across substantial innings with manageable ERAs and acceptable command metrics. They're fine pitchers and good contributors, in fact, but they won't single-handedly transform a rotation, and their postseason track records show some volatility. When examining advanced metrics and underlying performance data, they're demonstrably inferior to other available options. The comparison isn't particularly close. We can't pretend the performance gaps are minimal because the data clearly shows meaningful differences. Some pitchers have strong fastball metrics and solid overall run prevention, but the only elite skill they consistently demonstrate is ground ball generation. When comparing alternatives directly, do we really need extensive debate about who represents the more effective pitcher? It's not particularly close when evaluating objectively. The evidence clearly points toward certain pitchers being superior options. There genuinely shouldn't be substantial debate regarding this situation. Credible analysts have discussed this as well, noting that certain pitchers provide reliable frontline arms without surrendering prospects, but likely at the cost of significant financial commitment and contract length. Though alternative options accomplish similar objectives, there are also trade possibilities for controllable arms that could be pursued, though some seem increasingly likely to land with other organizations. For my evaluation, I prefer specific targets that make the most strategic sense. But what do Blue Jays fans want to see? Let me know your perspectives because I'm genuinely interested in how the fan base is evaluating these options and whether there's consensus building around specific acquisition targets or whether opinions remain divided on the optimal pathway forward.